Thought I should first talk about wood knots. So knots are basically where a limb came out of the tree, and it's extra tough there. It's very hard. Rivals stone. It's so hard. It has lots of pitch in it, which makes it hard, and just the nature of it, tight grain, very tight. So knots can be very cool. They can add a lot of design to the lumber. They add character, but they also can be areas that are difficult to work with. So for example, maybe on one side of the board you're planing it off and it planes smooth, but because the blades are going one way, it's smooth, but on the other side they're going, it ends up to be, it tears it out because it doesn't want to cut, it wants to rip. So that can be an issue. Some species of wood do not, the knots change by species. So here's a spruce. Pretty sure it's a spruce, and you can see small knots. Add design, add character, but don't really interfere much. They don't cause the board to be weak. So there's all different types of knots. And depending on what you're doing, you may leave them in, you may cut them out. You know, it depends on their integrity, like this one. So apparently it's cut the strength of the board probably in half. But here's the other thing. The wood around the knot area is tougher because it's taken stress and it's just grown tougher. I mean, I learned that when I was tearing out hemlock beams. You would think I could just break this knot out, and those areas you spent the most time on, they just would not come apart. Here's a piece that I need to cut a little bit more off, and you can see kind of looks like there's 3 knots going on here. 1, 2, 3. So, and that, you see that in some trees where there's one limb, there's multiple limbs coming out. And this is very hard, very dense, very dense. So knots, can you utilize them in your construction. You may have to remove them in cases, and other cases use them as accent areas. And the knottier it is, the more accent character you have. So it really depends on your taste, the look you're going for, and the species of wood. And the size of the tree. Most likely the larger the tree, the less knots you're going to see because there just wasn't as many limbs. And where it grows. So if it's growing in a field, it can have limbs all over because it's getting sunlight on all sides. If it's growing in a tall forest, then the bottom 50 feet may not have any limbs significant because it never had light down there. It had to go straight up and fast to get to the light. So knots can be great, and they can be something you need to avoid at times. And pre-drilling. You're not going to be able to put a nail through this. I don't think even with the best of nailers will it go through here. It doesn't. You need to pre-drill to get something into this. And you can't countersink it either because the head's not going to go in either. So you'd have to drill for that too. So you have to be aware of them and really pay attention to them and use them to your advantage. But knots can be great.